Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of I'm Probably Playing It Wrong, and in this episode I have a very special surprise for you, courtesy of Gabe Barrett, the designer of the Hunted series of games. Today on the channel I'm probably playing wrong, but I hope not, a game called Hunted Santa's Workshop. So this is a very special holiday edition of Hunted, where Jack Frost, as you can see here, has taken Santa hostage. And if we allow Jack Frost's nefarious scheme to continue, then Christmas is ruined this year. So your job, you have to take on a role of a character. So you got a couple of choices here. You could be Becky or you could be Clarence. So you have to choose who you're going to be. And for this game, I'm going to be Becky. And your intrepid character, are going to delve through the hunted deck and all the dangers and all the enemies and all the potential bonuses that you can get out of there. Traverse this map all the way here and all the way to these places until you eventually get to where Jack Frost is keeping Santa hostage. And then you have to fight Jack Frost, who's got a lot of hit points. He's got 20 hit points. And if you're able to do all of that, and going over these events as well, these various events that you're going to have to overcome, then you, intrepid character, can save Santa and save Christmas. So that's the basic setup of Hunted Santa's Workshop. Okay, so we've given you a setup of the description of the game, and now let's tell you a little bit more about the game's components, and we'll show you it's almost set up here. So essentially, like I said, you're going to be playing a character now. This is a slight change from the previous Hunted games, Hunted Kobayashi Tower and Hunted Mining Colony 415, where you didn't have an explicit character card. So here you do, and you can see here you have your, if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons or any kind of role-playing game, then these might look familiar to you. So you have some character traits: strength, dexterity, intelligence, charisma. And as well, you also have some abilities here, like this card. If you choose to use this, you can discard any card in the row, re-roll any number of dice, add +3 to a roll, and so on and so forth. And every time you use an ability, so you start the game with these abilities, they can generally only be used once per game, and then when you use it, you flip it over. So you've got a grayed out side indicating that you've used that ability. So we're going to set out our character cards and abilities over here. They're going to be to the left of our our player board here, just off camera. But don't worry, they're there. Now, let me talk to you a little bit more about your player board. So this player board is keeping track of your life. That's what your hearts are over here. And your time. So if you've ever seen any of the Hunted series of games, you'll know that time is a very precious resource. And lost conditions, if your life ever reaches below 1, or if your time ever reaches below 1, then you will lose the game in either of those events, right? Now, there's also other events, other effects here. So this game uses a D20 system for skill checks. So various cards will ask you to do a skill check. And if you have a lot of hit points, if you have 10, 9, or 8 hit points, you'll get to roll 2 D20 and then choose the higher result. So let's say they told us to do a skill check against strength, which is an unmodified roll here, strength 0. And over here is the current skill check value. So I have to roll 10 or higher to do a strength check. So let me bring in my handy dandy rolling surface here. I'm going to roll my 2 D20. And if I have 10, 9, or 8 hit points, I get to choose the higher value. So you see here, I've rolled an 11 and a 6. So if I had 10, 9, or 8 hit points, then I could discard, I'm sorry, that was a 9. Get to discard that 9, I'm sorry, that was 11. Get to discard that 11, discard the lower value, keep the higher value, which in this case is an 11, and because it's higher than 10, then I pass that skill check. Now, if I was slightly wounded, if I had, let's say, 5 hit points, then I only get to roll 1. So let's say that was a strength check of 10. I would still pass it. I'm only rolling 1 die. In this case, I rolled a 13, and that would still pass. Now, this gets really bad. Now, if I'm really, really wounded, let's say I've got 2 hit points left, and what this means is I get to roll 2d20 again, but this time I'm forced to choose the lower number. So let's say, so as you get wounded, it gets harder and harder for you to complete your skill checks, like you would in real life. So let's say we have to do a strength check of 10. We have to roll 2d20, and we have to choose the lower value. We rolled a 14 and a 9. In this case, we're going to choose that 9, in which case we failed a skill check of 10. We just failed it. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the skill check system here in Hunted Santa's Workshop, which I think is a really, really nice system. And you know what? The old RPG player in me is happy to be rolling RPG dice, D20s in this case. So let me now talk about, so that's their playboard. Now let me talk about weapons. So here with the weapons, let me just put my D20s up here. The weapons are also slightly changed from previous Hunted games. So if you take a look here, we have a slingshot. And these symbols here tell you all the information you need to know about your slingshot. So the first, the rightmost value here, this 12, indicates the number of the amount of ammo your slingshot has, which is represented by dice. In this case, you have 12 rounds of ammo. And so we have these special ammo tracker cards that you place your weapon on, going from 1 to a maximum of 12, and you have a tracker. And so now we've indicated that, hey, our slingshot has 12 shots remaining. Very cool. Now, this middle symbol here will tell you what kind of die you get to roll per shot. In this case, it is a D4, or a 4-sided die. Just happen to have some here. So here's our D4. So we have 12 ammo, and the ammo is represented in this case of the slingshot by a D4. Now, this number here, the leftmost value, indicates what's the maximum number of dice you can roll in any combat round. In this case, you can roll up to 3. So for this slingshot, each time I have to fight an enemy, I can roll up to 3 D4. So let's say it was a combat round and I'm fighting an enemy. Let's take a look. Let's see if we have an enemy here. Here we go. Here is an example of an enemy from the Hunted deck. We have a pain deer, right? A pretty vicious looking pain deer with 8 hit points. So let's take a shot at this pain deer. So let's say we were fighting this pain deer right now with 8 hit points, and we get to roll 3d4. You don't have to roll as up to the maximum. That's an optional. But right now, I want to make 8 hit points of damage, and I don't want that guy to be able to counter strike against me. So here we go. Here we go, combat round. And we rolled a, let's see. Okay, this is a new style where I guess the upright number is what I'll be choosing. So we rolled a 4, a 1, 5, 6. So we rolled 6 points of damage with that shot. So this guy from 8 is now down to 2 hit points worth of damage. I'm sorry, he's now down to 2. We put 6 points of damage on him. So there you go. That's his that's his current hit point level right there. And then, because we didn't get to kill him, now he gets to do 1 point of damage to us. So let's say we had 10, we're down to 9. And every time you fire a weapon, you have to use up 1 thing of time, 1 unit of time. So our time would go down to 19 if it were up to 20. So that's what 1 combat round looks like. Basically, every time you're unable to dispatch your enemy in 1 combat round, then it gets to do 1 point of damage to you, so on and so forth. So then we've just used 1 shot. I'm sorry, we used 3 shots. 1, 2, 3. We're down to 9. And now in the next combat round, we'd have the choice of choosing 3 again. Well, he's got 2 hit points. I don't think that I should use all 3 of my dice. But 1 might be pushing it. Would be so I think I'll do 2. I think I'll do 2. I'll shoot 2 rounds of slingshot ammo at the pain deer, and wow, we did 6 points of damage here. Boom! That's more than enough to take out that pain deer. So you are dead, and then you would get discarded. And that is what combat looks like here in Hunted Santa's workshop. Okay, so we'll keep our D4s handy for our slingshot. We'll just keep them over here, right off camera. And then you'll have other things that, you'll pick up other weapons, you'll pick up elves, you'll pick up bombs and other stuff from the hunted deck here. And you can use, so there's other trackers that are included in the game. Cool. Let's talk about the hunted deck itself. So this deck of 7 0 cards represents all of the things that you encounter in your going through in your adventure, right? So here's a happy reindeer, and this reindeer, so basically the way hunted works, the way the hunted deck cards are set up, everything on the left side is a resource, everything on the lower right side is a cost, right? And then everything in the upper right is a benefit if you're able to pay that cost. So for example, this reindeer, if you're able to give him a carrot, because reindeers love carrots, as we all know, this one will work for food. Very, very nice art, by the way. Then if you're able to give this reindeer food, he'll give you not just one, but two. He'll allow you to advance 2 steps on the map, 2 locations on the map. So this reindeer is really cool. So let's say we were actually able to give him a carrot. Boom. And you activate this card, and then we will be able to go 1, 2 ahead on the map. Right? That's what that's what the benefit of that card, the effect of that card. And then I'll show you how that, what would you have to do a little later on. So that's an example of something that you can find in the hunted deck. Oh, here's a monster, the bear. And the bear, if you make too much noise, if you alert the level, then this bear, you'll have to fight this bear. He has 6 hit points. And here's something new in the hunted system. This bear has the combine kind of keyword printed on it, which means if you found another bear, another monster of the same type, also with combine printed on it. Let me just quickly find another feral bear. There. Let's say that if you were unlucky enough that these 2 cards came out in the exact same time in the hunted row, and they both have combined, then normally you fight one monster, but in this case you would have to fight them both. And this would be, so they gang up on you. And you'd have to take out this bear with 6 hit points of damage, and then this bear with 6 points of damage, so that becomes doubly hard. So those are some of the monsters that you'll have to fight. What else? Here is a nice benefit card. It is a distraction. You could take this, you could pay the cost here, 1 kind of like elf boot here, and then you could take this and you could discard it to re-roll a die. So there's positive as well as negative cards that you will find in here. And essentially, these path cards are going to allow you to advance 1 or 2 locations on the map, which is what you want to be able to do. You eventually want to advance 15 different locations on the map to be able to get to where Jack Frost is holding Santa hostage. Let me go ahead and give these guys a good shuffle. All right. So let me show you. Let's say that you were able to get, say, a path or a reindeer card. Here's a nice example. And you were able to pay this cost, and then it would allow you to move ahead 2 steps on the map. So let's say you did that. Let's say that this was our current card. Cool. So now it allows you to move your pawn 1, 2 ahead on the map. So you've made forward progress of 2. Now, for each location that you are able to move, you have to take 1 of these event cards. Now, since you move ahead 2, so if we move ahead 1, you'd take 1 event card and you'd have to resolve it. All right, there's a little bit of a story here, and then a little bit of a challenge that you have to resolve on each one of these things. Now, if you are able to move ahead 2, then what you can do is you can actually draw 2 of these event cards, read and compare, and then choose which one is more advantageous to you to resolve right now, right? So you actually get a nicer benefit with a reindeer because you have more choice, right? Because there are just some cards that'll provide you with one location that you can move ahead. But if you got two, then you can choose. And I can say, I think this is more likely for me than this one, so I'm going to discard this card right here. And you can discard one of the event cards and then choose to resolve the one that you are more comfortable choosing. So, for example, here, you see one of your elven friends caught in a trap. A group of toy soldiers is coming, so you'll have to act fast. If you can't pry the trap open, they'll take your friend to Jack Frost. So this is a strength check. Roll strength. Succeed and draw until you find an elf card and add it to your inventory. However, if you fail that skill check, you will draw until you find an elf card and you'll discard it from the game. That's not good. I don't want that. Cool. So there's about 15 or 16 event cards here in this events deck that you have to encounter. So basically, every time you move forward on that map, you're going to have to perform, you're going to have to resolve one of these event cards and perform essentially a skill check against one of your attributes. So I already showed you this a little earlier, but let me go ahead and show it to you again. Each one of these attributes has a different modifier. So your different characters have different strengths and weaknesses, right? So for example, if you were rolling strength, Becky has no modifier to strength, but she has +2 to dexterity skill checks, +1 to intelligence, and look at that, +3 to charisma. Right, so those are Becky's strengths and weaknesses. As I mentioned at the top of the video, there's another character. His name is Clarence. And Clarence is kind of the opposite of Becky. He's very strong, but he's not very agile. His dexterity is low, and his intelligence he's slightly more intelligent, and his charisma is lower than Becky's. So, and Clarence also has his own kind of unique abilities here. So basically, there's a little choice of character, and essentially, you want to be able to make forward progress on this map. You want to move ahead, resolving skill checks and resolving events. Now, every time you have to flip over, so for example, this A map, it goes 1 to 5. If you pass 5 and you have to go to 6, you flip this over, and then you put your pawn on 6. Now, when this happens, you also have to increase the skill check level, right? So this 10, if you move over to B, now becomes an 11, which means it's now harder. It becomes harder for you because you have to roll higher, and becomes harder for you. The skill checks become harder as you progress on your way to Jack Frost. And eventually, if you're lucky enough to get past 10 and you have to go to 11, then you move on to map area C. And this becomes even harder. This 11 skill check value now becomes a 12, right? So it's now getting less and less likely that you're going to pass those skill checks. And remember, if you're getting hurt because you're going to get hurt as you go along, so this is also going to get harder because you're going to be rolling fewer D20s, or you're going to be rolling 2 D20, but choosing the lower rather than the higher value of the 2. Right? And you're going to be losing time as well. So as the game goes on and you get closer and closer to Jack Frost's lair, things get harder and harder. So the tension ramps up and builds up. Now, if you can survive all of that, that's not easy, and you get to this spot here, then you now have to enter the final battle with Jack Frost. Like I was showing you at the beginning of the video, Jack Frost has got Santa hostage, and Jack Frost has 20 hit points. And so you have got to fight Jack Frost, do him at least 20 hit points of damage to be able to defeat Jack Frost, free Santa from the evil clutches of the evil bad boss here, and save Christmas. So that is essentially a very, very brief kind of rundown of the flow of the game. We showed you your different characters, right? Your choices of Becky and Clarence and their different strengths and weaknesses. Showed you your player board, how that works. Showed you how weapons works. Show you some of the things that you can encounter here in the hunted deck that you are delving through. And we've shown you the map card and the map boards, as well as the events and the skill check value card. So that is a very, very brief overview of Hunted Santa's Workshop. And this is a special print and play benefit that Gabe Barrett, the designer of the Hunted series of games, is going to be offering very, very soon. Watch out for the communication, you Kickstarter backers, for the holidays. So check that out, and then watch out for my playthrough. Until then, this has been Martin, and I hope to play another game wrong with you very, very soon. See you next time.